ado, let's go ahead with the webcast. Just a quick overview of Highland Solutions. We are a partner, a gold partner of SugarCRM, as well as an IBM business partner. And as you can see here, we've had a lot of success in our engagements with clients, and founded in 1998, and we've got vast experience in CRM, e-commerce, custom development. Secondly, a lot of you already are familiar with SugarCRM if you're a partner or a customer, but this slide is really for those maybe that have no experience with Sugar. As you see here, Sugar has experienced a lot of growth over the last 6.5 years since they've been in existence. They're, in fact, the third largest CRM user base worldwide, and that's a testament to a fantastic product base and one that works well for their customers. As a result, you see here they've won many awards in the industry. And again, just a quick overview of Sugar. SugarCRM provides out of the box all of the tools that you would expect in a enterprise and small, medium-sized business CRM application: sales, support, marketing, reporting, and collaboration. But what I'd like to just mention, though, is that SugarCRM is more than CRM. It is a platform that can be customized to your particular business, an open source type of platform. In fact, here at Highland Solutions, we've actually extended Sugar to go beyond CRM and integrate into actual business processes of our customers. In fact, we've developed a Sugar database around inventory management, for example. So a much broader perspective of Sugar than just CRM. Moving along, a quick overview of CastIron. This may be new information for you. CastIron is a company very similar in nature to Sugar, founded in 2001 and then acquired by IBM in 2010. And as you see in the buzz section of this slide, IBM and CastIron are a match made in enterprise heaven. And because IBM does not necessarily develop applications per se, like SugarCRM, they are a company that develops integration between applications, and that's exactly what CastIron provides their customers. And as you see, there's a lot of awards that CastIron has won over the years. And you see also a 96% customer retention. So we're going to talk about CastIron a lot today. We're going to give you a demo of how it integrates into SugarCRM. But 3 points that I wanted you all to remember after this presentation today. If there's anything that you learned today, these are the 3 that I'd like for you to walk away with. As you see, CastIron is provides connectivity, integration, and synchronization with on-premise and cloud applications. And as you see here with the 3 bullet points here, it's a rapidly integration of on-premise and SaaS cloud application. And I want to highlight that because with CastIron, integration is done in days rather than traditionally integration can be take many weeks and months and possibly years for successful integration. So we'll discuss that rapid integration using CastIron quite a bit today. Second point, using a configuration, not coding approach to integration, and that's key as well. A business analyst can actually use this device and tool to integrate, and so you don't need highly expensive coders to do the integration. And then lastly, just like SugarCRM, you have a flexible deployment option using CastIron in the cloud as a device, a hardware device that you would put into your data center, or it can reside on your own hardware. So just like Sugar, again, flexible options. So some things to think about in regards to your own company, signs that your company may need integration. And these are things that maybe you want to keep an eye on within your own company. Perhaps you have low utilization of your CRM and other applications. And typically when we see that, smart people need information. They go around the systems and start creating their own systems and creating numerous spreadsheets, which is bullet 2. We've seen that many times in engagements that we've been involved in at Highland Solutions. Manual data entry into multiple systems, and I would encourage you or invite you to take a look at your business processes and see how many times you have to enter the same data over and over again. So again, that's a great sign that you're going to need or you may need integration within your company, which CastIron can provide. And then lastly, all of this can result into inaccurate information and data. You're entering data multiple times, multiple ways, in multiple systems, and that can certainly lead to errors in your information. So again, I would invite you to take a look at your business and see if any of these are a part of your organization. All right, so let's get into the meat of the presentation. We're going to talk about why you even want to integrate your CRM systems with your other applications. Here are some questions that maybe some of your sales organizations are asking. You know, for instance, has this customer paid? What are my hottest leads? I need to do a credit check. Where are my orders? And where are my invoices? So your sales organization is really your customer-facing organization. So you have to have all the answers to these questions when working with your customers. So where does all this data lie? You've got siloed systems typically that would contain all of your shipping information and your supply chain. You've got your invoices and payment terms in your finance applications, as well as your marketing. And typically in today's world, all of those systems are in a siloed manner. And so what CastIron can help you do, let me just build this out, is provide you the ability to integrate all of these systems such that you are giving your sales organization a 360-degree view of their customers. And let me build it out once more, and this is important to note as well. CastIron can give you bidirectional information feeds, which means that if information is entered into finance, it will automatically be populated into the systems that it's integrated into. So very powerful information that you need to provide your customer-facing sales reps. Next slide is really a very similar story with customer service. So if you're a product-centric company, certainly customer service is important to keep your customers, to keep them satisfied with their purchases. So these are some of the questions that they are asking. Is that part available? When is her service appointment? Is he a paying customer? Is her warranty valid? Was he really billed twice? So again, typically a customer service rep to answer these questions would have to go through multiple systems, as you'll see in this next slide, to find that information. And in a typical scenario with customer service, you're going to be on the phone with your customers, and you need to be responsive to those customers in a quick manner. And having to go through multiple systems simply really just puts a lot of lag time on the phone, and you know, certainly your customers would get a little bit upset with being on the phone too long. So at any rate, same scenario here. You want to provide your customer services reps the access to shipping, to finance, and to warranty information. And again, CastIron can provide that bi-directional information feed into your SugarCRM. All right, well, this next slide is probably motherhood and apple pie to most of you. Most of us are comfortable with putting our business information on the cloud. And this slide represents the growth that is occurring on the cloud. As you see here, in the next 5 years, there's a tremendous amount of growth going on in the cloud, and more enterprises and companies putting their information in the cloud. As a result, this is creating a hybrid world, if you will, of your data system, of your systems and your applications. So you've got your packaged applications such as SAP, Oracle, and the hundreds of others out there. You have your homegrown applications that have been supporting your business for years. Now you've got public clouds such as SugarCRM and others. and certainly you're developing private clouds for your internal workforce. So integration between all of these are paramount. And again, this next slide I think really gives you a good representation of what CastIron can provide your organization. And we're going to be giving you a demo of how CastIron integrates Oracle into SugarCRM in just a moment. But this gives you a good visual of what I've been speaking to around integration. Your on-premise applications such as SAP, Oracle, JD Edwards, Great Plains, as you see here, flat files and CSV files, etc., all reside on your own premises. CastIron is able to connect the dots into those applications that you may be using in the cloud, such as SugarCRM, or perhaps you're using SuccessFactors, for instance, for HR, or your payroll perhaps is in the cloud with ADP. So CastIron connects those on-premise enterprise types of applications into the cloud. And as I said, we are going to be giving a demo shortly with Mike. Typically, with existing solutions, they are incomplete. There are applications out there that will help you connect the dots between on-premise and cloud. And typically, companies will try custom coding to do that. And custom coding, as it says here, is people-intensive. It's expensive, and typically will take a long time to integrate. Some of the applications already have on-demand types of integration capabilities, such as SAP, Oracle, etc. But you are only going to be getting some of the rudimentary capabilities with those applications, much less than you would with a CastIron appliance. And then lastly, a lot of companies have elected not even to go into the cloud because of this integration factor, and the cloud is an afterthought. So wrap this up before we go into the demonstration. IBM CastIron provides total connectivity, and as you see, this picture represents the brands that it connects with. It is an extensive library, and I would invite you to go to CastIron.com and really view for yourself how many connectors and APIs are a part of the CastIron library. Secondly, the deployment is, again, flexible. Just like SugarCRM, you're able to deploy it via the cloud, as you would with SugarCRM. You can also purchase a physical device or appliance, if you will, that would reside in your data center that would contain all of this connecting information of each application. And then virtual appliance, virtually being able to put CastIron on your own hardware. And what makes CastIron easy, again, going back to the bullet points I mentioned earlier, that it's easy, it's all templatized. You are not having to custom code anything. And so there's repeatable successes that you have access to through an exchange, through a community out there, and a development kit that comes with CastIron. So it really provides you an easy to manage and easy to use integration platform. And then lastly, for all types of projects, so UI mashups, for instance, maybe you want to give your sales representatives access to information, but you don't want that information to reside natively on their SugarCRM. So perhaps you want to put in a mashup, a window into that information, such as finance or supply chain. It gives you the ability to create that. Also, we've discussed process integration, making sure that your data is integrated throughout your organization, so you're not having to repeatedly enter it into your each application. And then lastly, data migration. So maybe you're contemplating a switch from an on-premise CRM application such as Siebel to the cloud, to SugarCRM. WebSphere CastIron can provide you that point-to-point data integration in an easy manner. So now I'm going to switch it over to Michael Alley from IBM who is going to actually demonstrate for us today an actual integration between Oracle and SugarCRM to give you a flavor of how easy this can be. So why don't I switch over to Mike?
All right. Thank you very much, Scott. So thank you again. And what I'd like to do now is actually dive a little bit now into the CastIron solution itself. So the first thing I'd like to do to kind of set the table here is really give you an overview in what CastIron does. And CastIron itself is purpose-built for the sole purpose of simplifying and accelerating integration between on-premise and cloud applications. And the simplicity is provided here by these 4 things you see here on this particular screen. So the first value that CastIron provides is rapid and simple connectivity to applications without having to write code to do so. The second thing we do is actually providing the means to transform the data between multiple sources and targets with a simple graphical drag and drop configuration methodology for transforming data. And the third thing we do is actually providing logic and intelligence into the integrations that you build, such that the data is actually passing through these integrations, goes to the right place at the right time when needed. And then last thing, what we do is actually providing, and actually most importantly, is providing management capabilities for your runtime environment. So we provide a simple web-based management console that allows you to maintain and manage the health and welfare of your runtime environment. So what I'd like to do to really show you how this actually all comes together is actually give you a day-in-the-life demonstration of how we could actually integrate an on-premise application, which is a lightweight Oracle application, and be able to integrate these information I have in there. So in this case, it'll be customer data that I have. And as I enter this information into Oracle, I want to have it to be automatically synchronized into Sugar without having to do any kind of manual coding or manual retyping of data. And so how we're going to do that is I'm actually configuring integration from scratch for you all in the next 10 to 15 minutes that actually will perform the operation as needed. And then what we'll do then is actually run the data through. So I'll actually enter a customer into my on-premise app, and it'll have it be automatically synchronized into the into SugarCRM. And then lastly, I'll be able to circle back and show you from a management perspective what actually happened at runtime there, very quickly to give you that full view of what actually happened in your particular environment. So without further ado here, what I want to do is actually jump right into the solution itself. So what I'm going to do here is actually bring up CastIron here. So what we have here is the CastIron Studio. So this is the one tool that we use to configure all of our integrations. And the good news there is that regardless of the form factor you choose to deploy CastIron, you use the same base Studio application to be able to do that configuration. And the way the IDE is laid out is within very simply within the scope of projects and orchestrations. So here I have a project set up called Account Sync to SugarCRM, and within a project we have this basic unit of work which is called an orchestration. And then all really what an orchestration is just a container that's going to hold a series of instructions about what this particular integration here is going to do. So what I want to do here is actually create a new orchestration and then actually give it a meaningful name. So we're going to go ahead and call this Account Sync as such. So now what happens then is actually it gives me a nice little canvas on the left-hand side of the screen to start drawing the overall integration picture. And now how we actually draw this picture here is that within Studio, we have this palette of what's called activities. And all these activities are essentially icons that represent integration operations that you can perform using some of our standard-based connectors like web services, databases, flat files, and so on, and more of our pre-configured application connectors like SugarCRM, SAP, and Siebel, and so on. And how I actually use these activities here to draw my picture is I'm essentially going to drag and drop. So for example, if I'm actually pulling data out of my Oracle database, as the data is actually being put in, I'm going to find this Get Inserted Rows activity here and just simply drag and drop here onto the canvas. And then likewise, as I go into SugarCRM, we have a pre-configured connector that works against the SugarCRM API. So the value there is that instead of having to put the onus on you all to be able to custom code and manage all the different plumbing aspects of interacting with the API, we've actually provided a simple and easy to use interface here where we've provided all the operations that Sugar allows you to do with its API in a simple condensed view of icons or in this case here activities. So for example, if I want to perform an upsert type operation, I simply find the upsert object activity here and I just drag it and drop it here onto the canvas. So what we have here is just a very basic get and put type of operation, but the value of CastIron goes well above and beyond that. So in which case, if I want to make sure the data coming out of the database is the right data, and we'll define what the right data is here in just a second, but the way we actually manifest that is that if I want to take a look at this data with a simple if-then, again, I simply just drag and drop it as such. So now what's going to happen is that the data is good, Then and only then will it actually upsert the data. And if the data is not good, it will branch down here to this else and afford us the opportunity to do something else about it, whether it be sending an email, writing a row into a table, maybe invoking a custom web service I've written that allows me to generate an automatic trouble ticket when something like bad data passes through the integration. So it gives you that flexibility on how to deal with it. For the sake of for today's demonstration, if we do hit this condition, what's going to happen is I'm going to say, you know what, if the data is not good, just throw an error or terminate, and that's what that represents. So what we've done here over the last couple of seconds is essentially configure a very basic CastIron integration. Now the next step from here is to actually configure each of these activities, and really what that correlates to is more or less providing some basic information about each of these activities we've dragged into play here, and basically answer questions like, what database am I connecting to? How am I going to connect to Sugar? How often I look for changes in the mapping, and so on. And the way we represent that for the end user within CastIron is a simple checklist view on the left-hand side of the screen. So the first thing I need to do in this activity here on the get inserted row here is to actually pick a database. So this is where I'm going to set up how I'm actually going to go into my Oracle database to get the information that I need. So what I'm going to do here is actually create what's called an endpoint. And all an endpoint is just a connection to some name system out there. So what I have here is I'm going to select the database type here of Oracle. We support a number of different types, but we're going to select this one here as such. And then now what I'm going to do is actually enter in the parameters how to actually connect into this database. So I can certainly hard code these values in here, but what the value that CastIron provides is the ability to actually parameterize all our different connectivity parameters and settings and so on and so forth in what we call configuration properties. So what I'll do here is actually use a variable to represent the database name and the server location here with just a matter of a couple clicks. And then from there, I'll be able to go ahead and then make sure my connectivity is good to go. So I get my database user and password. Okay, so now that's all said and done, I could actually test the connectivity into the database. So what's going on here is we're ensuring that, number one, that our connection into Oracle from the design studio here is actually good to go. Now, the reason why that's important is because as much as we possibly can, the way actually CastIron represents data from the systems that we connect to is through what we call metadata discovery. And really what that is the fancy term of actually being able to get the data as it exists inside the source and target applications we're working with versus us actually having to write code to represent that. And I'll show you how that actually looks right here. So what I'm going to do here is in my checklist here, I'm going to pick the endpoint to just set up. And then now, as I go to this portion here, I'm going to pick the table that I want to be able to get the data out of that contains all my customer data. So how I'm going to do that is actually click Browse here. It's going to give me a list of all the different objects here within my Oracle database here. So my customer data is represented here. So I'm going to select that and hit OK. And then what's going to happen is that CastIron is going to automatically bring in the attributes here of what makes up a customer inside my source application, again, without having to write a single line of code. Now, the value here goes well above and beyond this initial design perspective here, brings in the data as it is, but also this allows you to be agile to be able to react to change, right? So I update Oracle or add some custom fields or otherwise. Now, the way I can actually represent that within my design time environment here is I can simply refresh that metadata directly from the source or target endpoint. So what that means is that when I react to change, it's a matter of a reconfiguration versus having to recode things, and that's where another point there where that time savings is going to come into play for you all. And then within my checklist here, I can configure how I'm going to get the data out. So I can look here every few seconds for changes. A single row, rows in bulk, I have complete control over that. And a retry, so standard retry operations are built in for all of our endpoints, and you can configure how that works. And then in this map output step here, what I have is the internal representation from the CastIron perspective of what a customer is. So now what I can simply do is take this data, copy it over into a variable, and now I'm ready to start working with it throughout the latter parts of my integration here. And then now the next step here is actually to define what's good and what's bad data, and I can do that graphically. So what I can do here is actually go into the actual data itself and define what's actually going to be good data from my perspective. So since I'm entering customer data, I want to be able to actually talk to these folks when we actually synchronize this information. I want to make sure that that phone number is there before they even gets into Sugar. So now what I can do graphically is represent that if that phone number is not equal to none or present, then and only then proceed to upsert the data into the target application. If it's not there, or if excuse me, if that phone number is not there, it's going to branch down here to this else and then actually terminate the process. So it'll actually do that every time a record comes through. And then from there, we could then now actually on the tail end side here actually configure how we're going to push this into Sugar, following the same type of checklist-based process. So what I'm going to do here is it needs me to pick an endpoint. So what I'm going to do is actually create one for Sugar. Go into SugarCRM as such. And then now I actually be able to enter in all the different connectivity parameters here. So just to bring up that properties window again for you so you can see what we have here. So I have my URL for sugar, which is right here, and password, and then make sure you have the application name set up right, and then the API version, which is a variable. And then now I could then actually test my connectivity here into sugar to make sure it's good to go, because we're going to use that same metadata discovery process here. So we actually ping the instance successfully here. Now, to give you, so my sugar instance is actually set up in a private cloud versus a public one. But sugar gives you the versatility to be able to deploy any number of different mechanisms. And how you actually connect would be the exact same regardless of the deployment mechanism that you so choose. Alrighty. So now we're actually going to pick the endpoint here we just set up. And then now in this configure step here, what I'm going to do is actually hook into my sugar instance and give me all my objects here. So it's going to establish a connection and give me this list here. So what it's doing behind the scenes here is actually making a connection into sugar and just simply providing the list of objects that I have here. So any standard or custom objects here are visible here from this particular view. So again, the value that the connector provides here is that that sort of plumbing aspect that actually provides this for you is built into the connector, so you don't have to do it yourself, and that's going to save you time. All right, so now I'm going to select the accounts object here, which we're going to be writing into. I'm going to hit OK. And again, just like before, what it's going to do is actually bring in all the attributes here, what makes up an account inside my sugar instance. So all my standard fields are brought in, as well as my custom fields are brought in too, as well down at the bottom. So I have a custom field here, which is _C represents here. That is actually the I have a field here set up that actually represents the external account ID, and I'll go into more about that here in just a minute. And then likewise, the same value proposition from reacting to change from a simple configuration methodology applies to sugar as well. So you add a custom field. So that means the value of sugar, the value of SAS is to rapidly make changes without having to employ an army of developers to do that. And the integration solution you choose should be able to do that, apply to that same model as well. So if I need to refresh directly from the target here, with a simple click of a button, I can actually refresh that directly from sugar. And retry, of course, is built in as well. So now is really where the rubber's going to hit the road, right? So on the right-hand side is the data here going to my account object inside of sugar. And on the left-hand side is the data here coming out of Oracle. So now it's just a matter of just understanding what my mapping requirements are such that I could actually get into sugar properly here. So for example here, so if I want to be able to map this information here into my into my system here. So for example, if I want to go ahead and maybe map over the so phone number here goes into phone fax as such, I simply just drag and drop and connect the dots. And then from there, if I want to be able to do some additional type of operations, where that correlation is not quite so straightforward, CastIron actually provides a palette of functions within the design time environment that allows you to be able to rapidly and simply do transformational type of operations. So in this case here, I have two cases where I need to transform data. I have a first name and a last name here that I got to get over here into name, and as well as down here in the address string here, I got to be able to link together the address 1 and 2 here from the source app into here into sugar. So how I employ these functions, very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just do a concatenate operation. I simply just drag and drop as such and simply connect the dots. So I have first name over here into concatenate and then last name. And if I want to modify these arguments, make it look nice and pretty, I can do that. Actually add a space there in between. And then when it's all said and done, I can simply just drag and drop it on over here. So really what it's about, it's rapid, simple, and flexible. And then in cases where it's not quite so straightforward, I have to do maybe an additional operation on top of the concatenate. I can link together straight at S1, address 2, and then let's just say address 2 is optional, right? So if I don't want to have this extraneous spaces, mapped into the target system, what I can do is actually take another function and put that at the end here. So what I can do is take the output of the concatenate, move it onto the trim, and take the trim over here to the proper field here. This is the joy of a live demo, folks. You get to see the sausage while it's being made. Here we go, billing address straight right there. Right-click apply. So in a matter of a couple seconds here, I've actually been able to perform a fairly sophisticated transformational operation. So I'm just going to finish up here, and then what we're going to then be able to do is actually run the data through. So I'm just going to map it over here, phone number over there, and then also what I want to be able to do, and this is a cool piece of functionality too here for that Sugar also provides you here, is I've actually set up a custom field here to represent the external account ID. So what that represents is actually, I'm going to set up like a system-based foreign key reference. So what's going to happen, I'm going to take the customer ID as it is within Oracle, map it into this external account ID here. So what I want to be able to do So if, say later on I want to be able to go back and do a bidirectional type of integration, so sugar out back into Oracle, I actually have the customer ID of the record within here, so I could very easily map that in. So it's just a best practice that allows you to be able to integrate applications bidirectionally simply. Okay, so now at this point we're actually ready to essentially enable this integration to be run. So what I'm going to do here is actually take it and publish it. So really what we're doing is encapsulating it and just pushing it out to my runtime environment. There we go. Pushing it out there. There we go. So now it's actually ready for us to do its thing. So now what I want to be able to do is actually go, first of all, show you inside of Sugar. As at this point we have no count, so it's a bare bones system, so we're going to start moving stuff in. So here I'm going to go into Oracle. So here's my little lightweight Oracle application here. So what I want to do here is actually add a new record here. So what I'm going to do is actually add an entry in here. So I am talking to you all from Chicago, Illinois here today. So what I want to be able to do is actually enter one of my favorite sports stars. So I'm going to go ahead and add in Michael Jordan to the system. So we're going to sell him some stuff. So here we're going to put him at 500 West Madison Street, Suite 350, like that, in Chicago, IL. And I put a zip code here of that looks good. And we're going to put him at Michael at Bulls.com. His phone number here is such. And then since Michael doesn't have any money, we're going to keep his credit limit low. And then we're going to go ahead and actually create that was a joke, sorry. Then we're going to actually add we're going to hit create it. So what's going to do is actually write the customer into the database. Now what's going to happen here is that CastIron is actually listening for changes. Remember we said we're going to look every 5 seconds for new records being inserted. So the row has been added. We're then going to pick it up and then actually write it as an account inside of SugarCRM here. So we're going to give it just a second to finish up. Pop over here to accounts. We're going to hit refresh, and if everything worked right, we're going to see Michael Jordan in the system. There he is. So we're now going to go in here, take a look. You can see here Michael's information is here in the system, so his address and everything here is concatenated right, and also that external ID is referenced here too, so as well. So this allows us, if we're going to go back the other way, we can do that bidirectional type of integration. And then just to kind of confirm that things worked right, what I'm going to do now is actually just real quickly introduce you to the CastIron Web Management Console. So this is our web browser view into all things CastIron, into your particular runtime environment. So here you have visibility into things like what's running, integration-wise, what's not running, errors as they happen. So if there's any type of critical alerts here from any integrations that are running, you can hover and see what those are. See real-time resource utilization. But also, most importantly, from our perspective, what we're very interested in is what actually happened at runtime. So with CastIron, we can actually trap that type of information here. So there's our project. There's our orchestration as it ran. Here's how long it took. So it took 2 seconds to complete. And if I want to, I can see some lower level type of information about, number one, not only how long the process as a whole took, but as well as the sum of the parts. So if I'm interested in finding things like bottlenecks and other issues here, it's very readily visible for me. Then also from from perspective, if I want to see what the data looked like as it came out of the source app, I can see that here. So this is actually a view into the data as it came directly out of the source application here. So it allows me to do troubleshooting from a development perspective as well as troubleshooting from an ongoing maintenance perspective as well. So what we've done here, no matter the last 50 minutes or so, is actually build a CastIron integration, our first CastIron template here from scratch. And to wrap us up here, the good news is that we have hundreds of bits of these integration templates already accessible for our customers via what's called our template library. So what I want to do here is actually within Studio here, I have visibility into all these different tips that we have in our particular environment. So, for example, if I want to search by keyword like Oracle or Sugar or otherwise here, I can actually just search by keyword and actually get a list of all the different integrations, these pre-configured templates that we have that we can use as a starting point here. So in other words, instead of having to reinvent the wheel, you can actually download these templates. So here we have a view of the Oracle ones that we have here. So these are all different, mashup scenarios, synchronization, and then data migration scenarios you can download and actually leverage within your particular environment. Some of these are certified, meaning they've actually been gone through some test cycles and actually are supported. And some of these are actually provided by the community, as like any other type of open source community, and therefore are not certified, but it can be rated as either good or bad. So again, the value that CastIron provides you here is access to this repository you can use as a starting point. So again, in true CastIron fashion, this is information from the fire hose. At this point here, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Scott, and thank you for your time and attention today.
Great. Great, thank you, Michael. And hopefully you have all seen that CastIron is a fairly intuitive tool. And I'm going to wrap this up with a couple of last thoughts. As you see here with this slide, CastIron is a proven company within IBM. These are a representative list of all of the customers currently using CastIron to connect applications from their enterprise to the cloud. So some of these names hopefully you've heard of before. And this next slide gives you, apologize about that, this next slide gives you some actual customer testimonials, and hopefully this will provide you some examples of what can be done at your organization. And what I'd like to highlight here is the fact that this integration to integrate took less, in most cases, less than 3 weeks. So we're talking days, not weeks or months or years in some cases. You're able to integrate these systems in days. And one I'd like to point out is Siemens. Hopefully you've heard of Siemens. They've been able to integrate their customer and sales order information into their cloud CRM in 14 days. Or in the last example there, the PIAB, able to provide their Salesforce and their customer support order-to-shipment information in 14 days. So that's the power of CastIron at work. Again, to wrap up, CastIron provides, again, this is a repeat of the very first slide of today and the 3 points hopefully you walk away from today's webcast, and that is that CastIron is a rapid integration on-premise to cloud types of applications, days, not months or years. User configuration, not coding. Our friend Mike is not a coder by trade, but can provide these types of services. And then lastly, you could choose from a flexible deployment option, whether that be in the cloud or as a physical appliance that you would put into your data center, or the third option being that the CastIron would reside on your own server deployments. Thank you very much for your time today. We'd like to perhaps open it up to questions, and before we do that, we had two poll questions we would like to ask of you to answer. So two will come up, and if you could take some time to answer those, we would appreciate that. And at the same time, if you do have some questions, we'll field those now. And if we can't get to all the questions today, we'll certainly provide the answers to you via email. So I'll give it a couple, about 30 seconds to answer the poll question. Okay, well, thank you for answering those polls. We have a few questions from the audience today. One being, if I require real-time integration, what type of CastIron instance, whether it's cloud or physical appliance, would you recommend? I'll pass that to Mike.
So, yes, that's a great question. I'll be happy to answer that one for you. So the good news is that if you choose to do real-time integration, you can do that with any of the CastIron form factors. So you can do that with the cloud-based form factor as well as the on-premise form factor. Now, one thing to keep in mind, though, is that depending on where that real-time traffic is coming from, so for example, if it's coming from SugarCRM in the cloud and you want to be able to have real-time notifications come outbound and have CastIron consume those by a runtime environment that's behind the firewall, then we would need to either have either CastIron running in a DMZ, which is probably not the best way to deploy the actual runtime solution, or you could actually have it routed through, if you're an IBM customer who's actually leveraged data power security appliances. Those are great DMZ appliances to be able to take in real-time traffic in from the cloud and actually route it to applications behind the firewall, or you can use some other means which to proxy the requests coming in from the cloud. But the base question there is, like, it can be done with any of our three form factors that we provide.
Okay, next question. Is it possible to use something like a trigger, for example, do an action in SugarCRM and have CastIron sync that to another system instantly? Does CastIron have the ability to have triggers called by an external system?
So yeah, the answer is yes. So any type of, when we talk about external triggers, so it could be from any application that's actually able to provide a real-time notification. And then we could do that with any number of different types of standards-based means of communication. So for example, if you have an application that's actually able to send an outbound SOAP request when a certain action happens, you can actually have CastIron set up to be able to listen and actually consume that request as it comes inbound. Or you could even have it be an HTTP-based type of request. You'll be either sending like XML or JSON or any other type of standard based data you can actually encapsulate in the payload of an HTTP request. Also, you can do things like real-time notification but via message-based type of technology. So, for example, leveraging WebSphere or JMS, we can publish or we can subscribe to topics, subscribe to queues, and actually have be able to pick those messages up as they pop in. So there's a number of different ways which you can get at data in real time, and the methods at which I mentioned there are just a few.
Next question. If you are connecting the Oracle database to Sugar, where is CastIron running?
So in this particular example, CastIron is actually running in a virtual appliance that I have running in actually my little actually on my laptop right here. But again, from the perspective of how it's actually employed out, by our customers, again, it's any one of the three different form factors. So if it's running, if you have CastIron running behind the firewall, from there we would just simply need to have that network visibility to the Oracle database, right? So if it's on this, if it's in the same, subnet, the same network there, we can get at it. Now, if it's in the cloud, the way we actually connect to applications that are behind the firewall from the cloud-based runtime. Now, that's the, our cloud being one of our form factors that we provide, is that what we actually employ then is what's called the secure connector. And really what it is just a daemon that runs behind your firewall, running either on a Windows or a Linux box, that essentially secures the connection between the cloud runtime and the applications behind the firewall. So that's how we interact with with the cloud-based runtime. But if it's the on-premise runtime, it's simply it needs to be on the same network as the as where the appliance is located in.
Great. Next question. What is a good example of when I should use a UI mashup versus an integration of real data?
Great question. So as far as it really depends upon, number one, the nature of the data you're working with, and then whether or not you actually want to be able to persist that data in the actual cloud-based application. So one parameter to think about when you're using a cloud-based application is that more often than not they're going to charge you for the space you're going to use inside that application. So in other words, if you have 100 years of historical data inside in the ERP system or financial system, chances are you probably don't want to have all that data resident in the cloud as well. So that's where, in which case, if you need to have, you still need to have that on-demand type of visibility into that historical data, but only really when needed. Then that's why I think a mashup, does really well in that regard. So, for example, if a customer calls up and says, "Hey, I had this invoice from last year or 5 years ago, and you guys keep sending me bills. I mean, is this really open or not?" So be able to have that mashup view inside Sugar from your financial system, as an example, will allow you to be able to have that visibility without having to persist all that data inside the cloud.
Great. Great. Thank you so much, Mike. We have several other questions. We'll table those and certainly get back to all of you that we have not answered questions. But I'd like to thank everyone for taking their time out of their day to be with us, and hopefully you got a good glimpse into CastIron and the uses of CastIron and integration within your company. So with that, I'll say goodbye.